In this video, I'll be sharing the story of the Still Wakes the Deep game. Alright, let's dive right in. The story starts when Kaz receives a letter from his wife asking for a divorce. He also meets the other workers, including Finley and Brody. After working for a while, the head of the oil rig calls him in. Kaz meets his boss, Rennick, who is a short-tempered man. Rennick tells him that a letter came from the police, and he knows everything about Kaz. Rennick has discovered why Kaz is there and what he's running from. Because of this, he fires Kaz. After getting fired, Kaz goes to the helipad to head back to the mainland. But then, there's an explosion, and his friend George falls into the water. Shortly after, another explosion happens, and this time, Kaz also falls into the water. Luckily, his friends manage to pull him out, and Kaz survives. Sadly, George, who fell into the water earlier, doesn't survive. At this point, we learn that all of this is happening because the rig hit something mysterious. We don't know exactly what the rig hit, but earlier, when Kaz was talking to Rennick, Rennick got a call warning him that the drilling site wasn't safe. Despite the warning, Rennick insisted on continuing the drilling, which led to the accident. Something strange collided with the rig, and we see that the entire lower part of the rig has broken off and fallen into the water. Many people have already died because of this disaster. We have to visit different parts of the rig, like leg A and leg B, trying to fix it. The generator often fails and needs to be started manually. During this, we discover a strange substance spreading throughout the rig. This is the substance that collided with the rig. It is affecting everyone, turning them into zombie-like creatures. They now act like zombies, which is terrifying to see. The whole rig is in chaos, and everyone is just trying to survive. Meanwhile, we hear from Roy, who has locked himself in the kitchen for safety. Roy, the one who brought Kaz here, is the rig's chef. With the rig falling apart, our only way to escape is through the lifeboats. We find out that Roy is diabetic and needs insulin on time, but he doesn't have it with him. His insulin is in his room, which is a bit far away. Kaz decides to secure the lifeboats for their escape, but when he reaches them, none of the boats are working. When he tries using one, it breaks off and falls into the water. Now, they are left with no other option for escape. They then receive a call from Rennick, who announces that they will be leaving soon by helicopter. He urges all survivors to reach the helipad quickly, as the rig is sinking. Kaz rushes back to Roy to get him to safety. On the way, he meets Brody and Finley, who help him disconnect the ship from the drilling machine so the rig can float in the sea. They somehow manage to reach the helipad, but just as they arrive, Rennick takes off, leaving them behind. Then, something happens, and the helicopter crashes into the rig. Now, they have no way to escape. Most of their friends have been taken over by the mysterious substance and turned into monsters. Only 4 people are still safe: Kaz, Finley, Brody, and Roy. The Barra D rig is falling apart, so they try to keep its power running to prevent it from sinking. Since it's an oil rig, they also worry about a gas explosion that could blow the entire rig up. Then, we see that Rennick is still alive but has been affected by the substance and turned into a monster. Kaz realizes that he must get Roy and escape as quickly as possible. Then we see a chase scene where Rennick, in his monstrous form, tries to kill them. While running from him, Kaz finds Roy's insulin and rushes to give it to him, but it's too late. Roy's body has already suffered from the lack of insulin, and he dies. Kaz has now lost a close friend. Now, only 2 people are left with him: Brody and Finley. Finley helps Kaz as they need to reach the marine control point on the ship. However, when they get to the control room, they discover that the main worker there has also fallen victim to the mysterious substance that's taking over the rig. Throughout the ship, many people, including those close to Kaz, are affected one by one, falling under the influence of the strange force that has taken over the rig. At one point, we learn that this force is a kind of hive mind. It has a central heart that is growing and pulsing, controlling the entire rig and even extending into the sky. Now, only 3 people are left: Kaz, Brody, and Finley. In a desperate attempt to save the rig, Brody sacrifices himself, giving Kaz and Finley a chance to escape. However, Finley becomes frustrated with the situation. She realizes that they have only a limited amount of time before the rig is destroyed and knows they need to find a way to escape. She also understands that just one spark could ignite the oil rig, causing an explosion. So, she prepares to destroy it. Her goal is to stop the spread of the mysterious substance before it can reach the mainland, where it could potentially wipe out an entire city. As Finley is about to act, machinery falls on her, critically injuring her. Before she dies, she tells Kaz that she knows he has also been hearing his wife's voice, just as she has been hearing her son's. Finley urges Kaz to stop the threat before it gets worse. Earlier in the story, when Kaz fell into the water and surfaced, he heard his wife's voice. He now realizes that every time he gets near the creature, he experiences headaches and hears his wife's voice, just as Finley heard her son's voice. This suggests that the substance or creature affects people's minds, even if they are not directly exposed. After saying this, Finley dies, leaving Kaz all alone. At this point, Kaz realizes that he will never be able to reunite with his family. He reflects on the mistakes he's made, including running away from his problems, and how these decisions ultimately led him to this moment. Kaz came to the oil rig hoping to lay low, thinking he could return later to resolve his issues with a character named Billy. However, this decision, which he initially thought was for temporary work or survival, ends up becoming the source of his demise. In his final moments, Kaz recalls his wife. Desperate to end the threat, he detonates the entire oil rig by setting it on fire with a lighter, fully aware that this will also cost him his life. The explosion destroys the rig, and Kaz dies in the process. However, in a scene that suggests an afterlife or a memory, Kaz is shown with his wife. He leaves her a final message, asking her to take care of their children and expressing his love for them. At the end of the story, a letter from his wife, Suze, is revealed. In it, Suze expresses her love for Kaz and hopes for his safe return with Roy. Unfortunately, neither Kaz nor Roy survives, and the story ends with their tragic deaths.